Welcome to Brain Snacks, bite-sized learning moments from Live and Work More Human. To learn more, check out the full conversation at the link in our show notes or visit us at liveandworkmorehuman.com. For now, enjoy. Before we dive into the full episode, here's a quick message from our podcast partners. What if every organization could deeply understand and optimize the potential of its greatest asset, its people?
Humanico blends cutting-edge insight with powerful organizational intelligence to give leaders a single, clear map of their people and how they thrive.
Cut through the noise of disconnected tools and surveys. Humanico brings it all together into one dynamic, intuitive platform, empowering better decisions, wiser strategies, and stronger teams, so humans and organizations flourish.
Humanico, putting people first at every level. To learn more, visit humanico.co/live and work more human. That's humanico.co/live and work more human.
In your book, Ruchika, you discuss 8 practices that we can use to, begin this sort of journey to uncompete, if you will. And one that really stuck for us was reset your mindset. It feels very foundational to being able to do a lot of the others. Can you help us understand and unpack, in the context of uncompete, what does it mean to reset your mindset? How might we go about doing that?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, so much of resetting our mindset comes from, so actually, I'll back up a bit. What I tried to do with the book is I wanted to structure it into 3 parts, which is choice, action, and resistance. So reset our mindset really comes in the choice part of, the book, where you really start out by questioning and pushing back against many of these insidious ideas that competition is something I always have to engage in. Competition is just the way things are. Even if I don't like it, I still have to do it. Otherwise, I'm going to get left behind somehow. Resetting our mindset is pushing back against those ideas and choosing very specifically to uncompete, very intentionally in every situation. So, for example, I write about the fact that, for example, you could be up for a promotion and your work bestie is also up for a promotion. And in that sense, in that situation, in that scenario, a competition mindset or a competition at all costs approach would tell us, well, it doesn't matter because I'm ambitious and I have to compete. And it doesn't matter if I'm going to elbow my work bestie out of the way to do that. When you uncompete, when you reset our mindset and sort of push back against the idea that you just at default, knee jerk, we compete, is you kind of slow down the process and you kind of ask yourself, like, A, do I really want this promotion? Is this the right time for me? Is the only way we can approach this is it's us against, us against them, like us versus them? Or might there be a scenario where I could talk to my manager or talk to the organization and say, like, I really value this relationship. I really want me and my team member to collaborate. And I worry that having this sort of adversarial approach to it would ruin that and would have a business impact or would have an organizational impact or a team impact. So it's really slowing down the process. It's not saying don't compete. It's not saying, don't like put yourself up a promotion or don't be ambitious. But it is saying, like, let's reset our mindset in a way that's like from autopilot to asking and slowing down and saying, like, do I really, really need to compete?
A really powerful point, Ruchika, and it takes me back to my time as a corporate finance lawyer in a previous life, very much in an environment that was highly competitive. I would describe it as cutthroat. And to some extent, like you use the word adversarial, and to some extent, I think the legal profession is inherently competitive because it has that almost inherently us versus them sort of mentality. I'd love it if you could sort of speak to me at that moment when I ended up leaving the law, I think in part because I felt like there wasn't a way for me to uncompete in that environment. But I'm sure there is. Could you give me a message, like, for those people who are in an environment that may not be necessarily lending itself to that kind of mindset? What would you advise?
Yeah, I love this question. So I will say one thing that is really fascinating. I love looking at the research around negotiation and this idea that, like, I think a very sort of older, like pale, male, and stale is the way that I've heard it be described, sort of approach to negotiation is like, it's us versus them. If you win, it's at my loss. And therefore, when I win, it's at your loss. And now when you talk to negotiation experts, especially like, for example, one I quoted, and, we had a longer interview. We ended up just unfortunately, using a short bit of my interview with Alexandra Carter, who is a lawyer who is at Columbia University, who is a negotiation expert, who especially looks at gender and negotiation. She specifically said, like, the best negotiations are where everyone walks away winning something, right? Everyone gets what they want is what a great negotiation is. It's not zero sum. And I loved that the fact that more and more, again, newer, like, I think understanding that the playing field isn't ever truly level, right? And the cards are typically stacked against one person or one sort of one party. So how can you create a situation where truly both sides walk away with something that is mutually beneficial is what an ideal negotiation is. So kind of bringing this back to, Sally, your time in corporate law, here's the reality. A lot of, unfortunately, organizations are set up to be very adversarial, to be very competitive, especially in the legal industry and the research I've seen. What gives me hope is I'm starting to see more and more especially women, lawyers, especially lawyers from backgrounds where you've typically not seen yourself represented, or the industry or norms, especially in large organizations, were not set with you in mind, is actually kind of splintering off to start your own and saying, I'm going to do things a different way, right? And what do I want to do? And what is the impact I want to make? I'm so lucky to work with a fabulous team of attorneys for even my own business, for various things I've done, over the course of my career, certainly as a journalist as well. Like, how do you design for impact in your life versus, oh, I'm just going to get that big law job because someone else told me that's what I should be doing?
Fascinating sort of reflection I had while you were speaking there, Ruchika, is that basically it feels like this reframe away from winning, which seems quite obvious, but almost when you intentionally slow down, and to your example around competing with a friend for a promotion, it's allowing yourself the time and space to sort of have the forethought to say, what is most important to me as an outcome here? Is it the relationship? In Sally's case, I'm not sure so, but is it feeling like I'm doing meaningful work versus winning every sort of battle? And I do quite a bit of volunteering as well, where we work with a committee of volunteers. And so often I find we come to the table with a lot of personal differences around how to do things. But when we always ask the question, what is it we're trying to achieve in the best interest of our members? When we put that first, we can reduce the sort of competition amongst ourselves, or like the idea that it has to be your way or the highway. And it's sort of, that was just something that came to me as you were speaking there. It's this opportunity or this invitation to slow down and say, what am I prioritizing by doing it this way?
You're so right. And also, what actually does winning mean? One of the things that in my work, both in equity and inclusion to date, talking to so many amazing leaders, especially women leaders, people of color leaders, is what starts to happen is you do all this, you're exceptional, you overwork, you do everything you can, you play the rules by what, the guys do and blah, blah, blah. And it's so damn lonely. And the cost is so high.
We hope you enjoyed this brain snack from Live and Work More Human. Learn more at liveandworkmorehuman.com. We'll see you next time.